from a corporate or an organization or an enterprise perspective, that is almost the one most important thing that enterprises are constantly working to achieve, that the people who are currently in positions of power train and impart their knowledge and their understanding to those who are likely to then become their successors, so to speak. And that exchange of information, knowledge, experience is not almost always perfect, right?
If you say the purpose of an organization is growth, the growth being the primary word, and how do I grow? Now, normally growth is seen purely in economic terms, in terms of growth of Lakshmi. So my salary has to increase, my the top line, bottom line at a company level, at an individual level, my salary, my perks, my remuneration has to increase. But let's take another currency which also exists in India. Lakshmi is not the only currency. The other currency is Saraswati, knowledge. So every person who walks into an organization is suddenly exposed to a whole load of knowledge as he does his work. Now he says, I want to go to the next level. What is going to the next level mean? When you look at it from a mythological perspective, we are saying that, you know what, the role that I'm performing, I have done the best I can, I have lived it. Now I want to take up a new role. In a way, I have to shed the old role and take up a new role. So in a way, the old role, the shedding of the old role can be equated with death. So when you die in India, you cross a river called the Vaitarani.
Right.
So when I'm saying, you know what, I've been a good executive, so I die as an executive so that I can be reborn as a manager. But why should I be allowed to move on to the other shore unless I have created a replacement for myself? Because otherwise you're indispensable. The word uses pitrarin, it's an obligation. Just as you were made an executive by someone else, you shall make someone else an executive before moving on to the next role as manager. So if you look at an organizational hierarchy, it's really one generation after another generation, and each generation is obliged to the previous generation and to the next generation. So there is a telescoping of ambitions across generations, which one is trying to achieve. And this is how the ashrama system came into being. In ancient India, they said that, okay, you're going to live for 100 years. And they said, let's divide your life into 4 phases. And the first phase is when you're a student. Right. The next stage, you're a householder. Third phase, you are retired. And the fourth phase, you're a renunciant. Right. You're a sannyasi. Now, look at it metaphorically. What it says in the first phase, you gain Saraswati. In the next phase, you use the knowledge of Saraswati that you've got to gain Lakshmi. Now, having done the householder's life, what do you mean by retirement? Because that's 25 years, because it's divided into 4 equal phases. What do you do actually in the retirement? It's not actually, retirement doesn't mean walking away from everything. It means passing on the Saraswati that you have gained to the next generation. And only then, renunciation is moving to whatever you want to do. Right. So it's kind of a cyclical process which is happening. So in this stage, retirement stage, I'm talking to the previous generation, preparing them. And so one generation is growing. So I give Saraswati and move on to the next level. So who grows? The new trainee is growing. And so am I growing, because I can go on now to take the next position. And so there is like a perfect wave that is happening, where Saraswati is being given, Saraswati is being taken. Saraswati is being given, and so is Lakshmi being generated. So there is growth at an intellectual level as well as at an economic level. And that is what organizations should aspire for. I mean, the whole idea of creating a separate training department is absurd. Because who has the knowledge? The person in the field has the knowledge, not the person, someone sitting in the classroom. Coaching is intrinsic to growth. And that's what the Vishwamitra story in a way says, that he has been a king, he has been a great king called Kaushika. Vishwamitra, friend of the world. That's the meaning of the name. So he's saying that, you know, I will pass on whatever I have learned to this young, promising prince called Ram, and then move on.
But not all of us can be Vishwamitras. You call this a perfect wave, but the thing about corporate power or power in the workplace is that the more you know, the more power you have, the more indispensable you are, or the less dispensable you are.
Yes.
And therefore, the incentive to pass this on to successive generations and empower them as well is very, very low, right? Because then it makes me less important.
Yes, absolutely. See, the whole idea is we think knowledge is power.
Right.
So I don't want to give it. The reason I give it away is because in the process of giving it away, I learn many more things.
Okay.
So it's the Saraswati is this wonderful, unlike Lakshmi, if I have 1 rupee coin and I have to give, and you have 1 rupee coin, and we exchange 1 rupee coin, both of us are still left with 1 rupee coin. But if I have an idea and you have an idea and we exchange 2 ideas, we both have 2 ideas. So the wonderful thing about Saraswati is that
it doubles.
It doubles.
Right.
So if I want to increase my understanding of Saraswati, the best way to improve my understanding of any subject is to teach. Because also what happens is, in the process, I figure out human dynamics. We figure out, why does a person not want to study? Because it's so obvious, right? This is the way you negotiate. And you'll realize that the person in front of you is not learning. The teacher, by observing the student and his resistance to learning, figures out human dynamics. He understands why a person, nobody's obliged to learn, how difficult it is to learn. And so you have to work very hard to make the subject attractive.
So it is incumbent upon the teacher to sort of find ways to help the student learn, as much as it is incumbent on the student to find ways to learn.
Let me rephrase this slightly. What I'll say is that in the process of giving Saraswati, I figure out the art of becoming attractive.
Okay.
Because I focus on creating the honey, and the students will come like bees. The focus is on creating the honey and not in attracting the bees. The bees will come. Now, that is the growth that I get when I'm passing on my knowledge to the other. So you gain and I gain. You gain some knowledge, you get the data, but I get the wisdom.